Planning Board, September 26, 2019 to order, and we'll start with roll call.
Walter Jennings.
Here.
Robert Dowdy.
Here.
Joel Kelsey.
Here.
Jay Piercy. Neil Hill.
Here.
Philip Humbard.
Here.
Okay, then we'll move on to the minutes. I'll give you a minute to look them over and entertain a motion. It's your pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes, or the agenda as presented. Minutes. Minutes, correction, minutes. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to the agenda. Are there any agenda changes at this point?
Yes, sir. We're going to amend the agenda in order to separate the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Adjustments to be convened separately. And we have the amended agenda in front of you. If you'd like to look that over real quick, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, you'll have a minute to look it over, and I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as revised.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to new business.
Is this one on?
Nope.
No. Okay.
There, you're on now.
Okay. So item A, Wedington Woods Subdivision Unit 7, Lot 701, 702, Part of 703, and Part 704. Minor subdivision replat request. Can you hear me? Do I need to speak louder? Okay. So this project is to allow the replatting of lots 701, 702, part of 703, and 704 in Unit 7 of the Wedington Woods subdivision, located north of East Highway 16. Here's the area where the lots are located at, and here's the close-up. The applicant is proposing to move the lot lines of these 4 lots. And here's a close-up of the proposed adjustments. Basically, lot 701 will go from 2.19 acres to 1.19 acres. Lot 702 will go from 1.14 to 1 acre. Lot 703 from 1.04 to 1.11. And lot 704 from 0.35 acres to 1.11 acres.
Hey, Sita, can I ask a question right quick? Can
Yes.
y'all see that back there? Is it changing screens? I didn't think so, because it's not up here either.
She's working on it, sir.
Okay.
Should I wait or should I continue?
Yeah, we know.
The left is back up. The right is out. They're both up. Yeah, I tried it on the clerk PC and the podium. The only one that'll work is stream.
So on September 19th, we conducted a site visit, and this is the entrance to Bob White Circle, Washington County 2151. And this is the view after having just turned onto Bob White Circle. And here is the existing residence. And here is looking towards the residence from the cul-de-sac. The view south of the entrance, or from the entrance, what's directly across the street. And here's looking north. So soil work has been scheduled, and before final approval, will be given. The applicants will have to submit a copy of the soil analysis for each lot stating that the soil is suitable for septic. Further permitting for septic will have to be processed through the Arkansas Department of Health. On September 12th, a total of 14 notifications were mailed to surrounding neighbors within 300 feet of the project's outer boundary. And to date, we have not received any comments in opposition or in favor of the project. At this time, staff recommends approval of this project with the following conditions, and these conditions have not changed since the time of your staff report. Any questions?
Any questions for, okay? I don't think the proponent is here, I'm not sure if a proponent is here, if there's anything you want to add, they can add at this point. Is there anyone from the public here to address this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the
Who's got it? Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minor subdivision replats lots 701, 702, 703, and part of 704 with staff comments and recommendations.
Second.
motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. We'll move on to the conditional use permit part of our hearing.
Johnson and Smith Residential Conditional Use Permit. The Johnson and Smith Residential CUP request is for a property located just outside Fayetteville city limits, inside the planning area. Located off Dead Horse Mountain Road, the area is growing. You can see the existing subdivision to the northwest of the proposed CUP and another subdivision directly west, with houses currently under construction. The subject property has 2 existing houses, 2 shop buildings, each with existing individual septic systems. The plat shows this is just a simple lot split. However, the proposed acreages are not compliant with zoning, which allows for 1 acre minimum lot sizes by right. So this conditional use permit is required since Tract A is requesting a 0.69 acre lot size. This diagram shows the proposed configurations of the lots. Tract A, shown in red, is proposed at 0.69 acres. Tract B in green is proposed 1.47. And the blue area is the proposed 30-foot access easement preserving Tract B's existing access to Dead Horse Mountain Road. And here you can see the plat without all the diagram colors. Here I have a photo of the existing driveway providing access to the public road. And site distance to the north is adequate, as well as to the south. Being this is in the Fayetteville planning area, at the technical review stage of review, the City of Fayetteville provided comments requesting that we, quote, please limit access to Dead Horse Mountain Road to a single shared curb cut. This is consistent with the adopted plans and ordinances of the City of Fayetteville, promotes a safe street condition, and allows for future development of Dead Horse Mountain Road to its currently intended arterial classification. With all this, staff recommends approval of the Johnson and Smith Residential CUP with the conditions as they were presented in the staff reports. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions? Okay, is a proponent here or would like to add anything? Okay. Is anyone from the public here that would like to address this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Johnson and Smith CUP with conditions as presented.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, motion passes. We'll move on to the item B, or C.
Item C is Tom's Tackle and Bait Shop, conditional use permit request. This project is located in the Prairie Grove planning area. The property itself abuts Bob Kidd Lake. So here's a little bit of a closer view, so you can see the area around it. And here is a close-up of the site itself. And here are the so the applicants have placed a 12 by 32 portable building along the northern part of their driveway. It's indicated here in the pink by the pink rectangle. Mr. Waller is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a bait and tackle shop in an area that is zoned agricultural and single-family residential. And here are the criteria for allowances of conditional uses in Washington County. Staff feels that criteria 1 through 3 have been sufficiently met. However, criteria 4 through 6 are a little bit more subjective. There are many ways to determine compatibility. One way is visually. The shop is located on the right side of this picture. It is being painted to match the house that the applicants reside in. Once the painting is complete, the applicants plan on installing landscaping around the area of the building with shrubs and flowers. The applicant hopes that by matching the color scheme of the main house and by installing landscaping, the shop will have more of a look like it belongs on the property. The applicant does not intend to have running water at the shop, so soil work was not required. The project area is highlighted in red. The areas in light blue are parcels whose use is residential. The green is agricultural use, and the orange is exempt land. Exempt land such as state highways and land owned by the government, such as the Corps. The darker gray shows where commercial uses are as assigned by the assessor's office. The dark line here, which is in black, represents the city of Prairie Grove boundary. If we take off the parcel map overlay and look at the aerial, we see an area that already has some major commercial use. Roughly 333 feet to the east is Copart. The city limits and the next area considered commercial is about 572 feet to the south. Staff feels that a small tackle and bait shop whose hours of operation are limited will not be totally incompatible, especially since the applicant will paint the shop to match the house and install landscaping. The nearest residences are approximately 141 feet to the north. The next residence is around 176 feet to the south. Bob Kidd Lake itself is to the west at 540 feet. Public access to the lake is about half a mile away. And here is an image of the neighbor to the north, the neighbor to the south. Speaking of neighbors, on September 12th, we mailed a total of 8 notifications to property owners within 300 feet of the project parcels. Of those, 8 were received. Each of these were in opposition. These comments were included in your staff reports. No new comments have been received since then, and you should have an update packet. This is the applicant's responses to the neighbors. And to summarize the comments received as best as I can, the neighbors fear additional traffic will cause their normal traffic flow to slow, and they fear that the additional people in the area will cause a spike in trash and crime. Staff recommends approval of this project with the following conditions, and these conditions have not changed since the time of your staff report. Any questions?
Questions? Okay. Is the proponent here and would like to add anything? Okay. Is there anyone from the public here that would like to address this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to committee.
Oh, go ahead.
What are the hours of operation restricted to?
Mr. Waller is retired, so they will be in the morning whenever he decides. It might be 6 a.m., it might be 7 a.m. It's my understanding that fishing is generally an early morning activity or an evening activity. I do not think that by evening his hours will go on very late because he does have a family that will miss him otherwise.
So,
just limited a few hours in the morning and a few hours in the evening.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the Tom's Tackle and Bait Shop CUP with the conditions presented.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We'll move on to item D.
Thank you. This is the MOA CUP. The subject property for the MOA CUP is located in the northwest corner of the county. It is a 40-acre parcel of land situated at the corner of Arkansas State Highways 244 and 59. The property is an undeveloped hayfield. The applicant's site plan shows a few phases which are to be completed as time and funding allow. The first phase is to build the road with the cul-de-sac turnaround at the end to be in compliance with state fire code. The second phase is to build the gazebo. The third phase will be to build the restrooms and the septic system. And finally, the fourth and fifth phases, again, as time and money allow, are for parking and additional final touches. The applicant provided this detail showing the road alignment with radii, widths, and culvert locations. It's been reviewed by a county engineer and fire marshal and been approved. And here the plan shows the smaller detail areas. And we'll take a look at this, this small pull-off area shown here in red. This pull-off area is for fire trucks to park so another fire truck can pass. This is an option in the state fire code the fire marshal has suggested so the road doesn't have to be constructed to the full 20-foot width. And here you can see the road section the applicant has provided. The road will be constructed to this dimension in some locations, but in most locations it would be constructed to 12 feet, with small adjustments down the length of the road as approved by the fire marshal. Here's a simple perspective view of the gazebo and some construction details provided by the applicant. The septic system has been designed and the applicants have a signed septic permit authorizing its construction. The restrooms and septic system are the third phase after the road and the gazebo. A condition of approval has been added that the entire septic system must be set back no less than 100 feet from the neighbor's well, which lies to the northeast of the proposed septic lateral field. Here we have the main entry to the property. The site distance to the east is adequate, as well to the west. There's a second gate off the west side of the property. The applicant has stated this gate will only be used for traffic control during events. Site distance to the south is adequate, as well to the north. During the past two events the Hmong Association has held on this property, they have had soccer tournaments and cultural celebrations. Here in the distance you can see another soccer goal with the orange flags in the foreground marking where the proposed road will be constructed. This panoramic photo shows the entire 40-acre property. There will be a gazebo, restrooms, 2 soccer fields, other flexible space to hold small gatherings, and approximately 15 acres reserved for parking. And staff recommends approval of the CUP with conditions. Planning staff has added additional conditions since the time of the staff report, and I'll read them now. The septic system must be set back from the neighbor's water well by at least 100 feet as per Arkansas Department of Health requirements. The applicant shall communicate with the Washington County Sheriff's Department the dates when the events are planned. The applicant shall coordinate with the Washington County Sheriff's Department to evaluate if there is a need to hire deputies for traffic control. And the events should generally adhere to the applicant's stated hours of operation, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but should definitely not extend beyond daylight hours as per request from multiple neighbors in the area. And I'll take any questions you have now. Thank you.
Nathan, is that 8 to 5 just on days that they have it, or are they planning on being open every day, or?
No, sir. This is just whenever they have events. they've had one event per year for the last 2 years, and they've been renting out event space in Springdale in order to have these events. But they've kind of outgrown their space and their budget for those spaces on the economy, if you will. And so they've bought this field and plan on having their events out here. I believe they have pretty varied type of events. They have fashion shows, they have sports tournaments, they have small flea markets, but it always comes back to the sports tournaments and whenever we have discussion. And so I think that is the big one that they're wanting to have the additional space for. And I believe that during the sports tournaments, that's when they'll have the major influx and exflux of the parking. So I don't believe that if they were to hire traffic control folks, whether it be from the sheriff's department or otherwise, I don't believe that that would be very often, according to my conversation with the applicants.
All right, and the events they've had so far, there's not been an issue or complaint in reference to the traffic or parking or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay.
The one complaint that I did have was that they could still hear the music after the sun went down and moving on in towards the 10 o'clock hour. And I reminded the person that we don't have quiet hours in the county, but we typically like for people to adhere to whatever hours are recognized by the nearest town. But way the heck out here in the rural part of the county, you know, it's out in the middle of a field. And so my condition that I put in there, whether you'd like to approve that condition or not, it's up to you. But I said we'd like to go ahead and see them wrap it up by nightfall.
Okay.
My observation in the past is that there's a significant amount of people, but they don't have any problems. I've got property in that area as well.
The neighbors repeated over and over that they had no problems with them having the events. They just wanted to make sure that their septic system wasn't going to be leaking into their well, which is right across the fence. And so we made a condition that they'd keep it back 100 feet, and that's the health department. And then whenever they all leave at one time after dark, said with the headlights, it can be a little bit blinding. But, you know, that'll be over fairly quickly.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Would the proponent like to add anything at this point? Okay. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to address this? Okay, seeing none, I'll close it to the public and bring it back.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve MAUA CUP with the conditions as presented.
Second?
Motion and second to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion passes. We will move on to item number E.
Item E is the Munyon Road Wireless Communications Facility, CUP. This project is located in the southwest portion of the county, near the community of Dutch Mills. Here's the area that the project parcel is located in. And here's a close-up. The applicant is proposing to construct and operate a wireless communications facility in a parcel that is owned by Richard and Tammy Hale. The parcel is located in an area that is zoned for agricultural and single-family residential of 1 unit per acre. Any other use must be approved through a conditional use permit. This is the area where the applicant is proposing to construct the 75 feet by 75 feet enclosed facility. And here's another view. You can kind of see in the lower left-hand corner, outlined in black, there's the house. And here's just another view of it. I mapped out the easement, which is an existing dirt road, which is kind of in the dotted black, and then there's the purple box to represent the 75 by 75 lease area. And on the screen is the southwest portion of the county. The green stars represent existing known cell towers. The red circle represents the project's location. The nearest towers are 6.9 miles and 5.2 miles away. This leaves a huge service gap in this part of the county. Onto the easement. The easement travels between two poultry houses. And these are the two poultry houses we have to travel through. This is the road to the project site. And again, the lease area. Site distance was not an issue. This is looking north on Munyon Road, and this is south on Munyon Road. The applicant also plans to construct a 190-foot tall cell tower. This tower may be reviewed administratively if it meets the requirements, and if it doesn't, then it will have to be reviewed by the planning board. Section 11-307 states that the towers must be located so that there are no residences within 150%, of the tower height. In this case, 150% of the 190 feet is 285 feet. So the dark blue line represents 285 feet. The nearest residence is approximately 442 feet away. Section 11-306 states that all towers shall be set back from the nearest edge of all roads by at least 20 feet plus the height of the tower. Again, the tower is proposed to be 190 feet tall, so that plus 20 feet is 210 feet. The county road approximately is 3,750 feet away from the tower, and the entrance, as the crow flies, is approximately 4,300 feet away. So this tower is designed to co-locate up to 3 antennas. There will be a fence around it, and the fence will be approximately 6 feet tall with 3 strands of barbed wire running along the top of it. On May 2nd of this year, the Planning and Zoning Board approved a conditional use permit for a wireless communications facility that's about a mile away from this project. Again, the red dot is the current project's location, and the green square represents the facility from the May 2nd project. So the applicants conducted a study to see if they could co-locate on this Dutch Mills CUP tower, but there's a 400-foot ridge line that prevents the signal from reaching the other side of the Dutch Mills CUP tower. The location of this current facility on Munyon allows for a better signal overall. Co-locating on the Dutch Mills CUP tower would result in poor coverage in an area where coverage is already poor or non-existent. A total of 5 notifications were sent to property owners within 300 feet of the project's parcel, and to date, staff has not received any comments from the property owners stating opposition or favor of the project. Staff feels that all the criteria for allowance of conditional uses have been met, and at this time, we recommend approval of this project with the following conditions, and the conditions have not changed since the time of your staff report. Any questions?
Questions or comments? Okay.
Will it help Turner and Don Tyson? I'm being funny.
Okay, is there anyone here from the public that would like to address this item? Okay, there's one. Would you come forward, please?
Here.
Yes. Please state your name and...
Thank you. I am Charlene Fite, State Representative for District 80, which includes the area that we're looking at right now. I have received a number of emails and personal contacts through the years with people saying that their main problem in this area is that they don't have cell phone coverage. They see it as a safety hazard when they need to call 911. When they need help, they can't get any. And they say that they believe that more people would be attracted to live in this area if they could get cell phone coverage, and it would just add to their quality of life. So I'd very much like to see this approved. Thank you.
Thank you. I can second that, for sure. Okay, is there anyone else from the public who would like to address this item? Okay?
Josh McConnell. I also live in the southwest part of the county of this area. I also work with the Sheriff's Department. We are on the FirstNet system, and our cell phone coverage down there is not very good, and I do agree with the lady that just spoke that the cell phone coverage would help the Sheriff's Department and would also help with my cell phone service out there as well. And I'd like to see it approved.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the Munyon Road Wireless Facility CUP with conditions presented.
Second?
Okay, motion to approve has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. I guess we'll move on to now the discussion of current development planning or
Yes, sir, thank you. I just wanted to give you a quick update on some of our projects that we've got going in the planning office right now. You know, the Wedington Mine CUP was approved the last planning board meeting, or the previous one, and being that it was so contentious, we didn't put it on the Quorum Court agenda for the last meeting, and indeed, an appeal did come in, and so tomorrow will be our 20-day deadline to get our neighbor notifications out, so we would expect the Wedington Mine CUP appeal to be on the next Quorum Court agenda. In addition to that, we're working on zoning. We've enlisted the help from the Regional Planning Commission, Mr. Lester, Chief Gales, myself, and the rest of the planning department. We're diligently looking into this and discussing and trying to change up our zoning strategy just a little bit. And basically what I envision it looking like on the back end here is we'll have several new zoning types, and we'll have a good process by which we can rezone properties instead of requiring conditional use permit on everybody who's not fitting into the agricultural, single-family residential, 1 unit per acre into one of those buckets. And so just wanted to keep you updated and let you know that that's something we're working on. We've got our next meeting with the regional planning folks here going to be mid to late October, and we're going to try to get something to the Quorum Court sometime before Christmas. So thank you very much. Next planning board meetings are November 7th and December 12th, and that's it for other business.
is there any old business?
No, sir.
Okay. At this point, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes. Now we will open up or reconvene, I guess, to the zoning board of adjustments part of this meeting.
Thank you. Traditionally, the Zoning Board of Adjustments is used to hear rezoning and variance requests, but in practice, we've combined the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Adjustments meetings for quite some time, since both boards are composed of the same members. And now they will be convened separately. This evening, I have a rezoning request to present to you for your consideration. Washington County recognizes there's a need for a process to rezone properties rather than requiring CUPs for everything, every proposed use other than ag or SFR1. Currently, if a property owner wants to lease their property to a commercial tenant, a CUP is required for the tenant's specific land use. Then if the tenant changes, a new CUP must be reviewed and approved for each subsequent tenant's specific land use. Or in this case, the property owner had a chance to sell their property to an established moving business, but allegedly lost the sale due to this CUP requirement. If this rezoning request is approved, there will be no further requirement for review and approval of each tenant's specific land use. And so, which brings us to tonight's rezoning request. The Lingle property, currently occupied by Path Utility, is located just outside Fayetteville city limits at the corner of Mount Comfort and Sunshine Road. But Path Utility's lease is up and they're moving out. With several businesses both nearby and adjacent, mostly all grandfathered into compliance with zoning, the Lingles property has been operating commercially for quite some time. The yellow stars on this slide represent the nearby businesses, just within this small viewshed here. The Lingles purchased this property in 2015, but has been operating as commercial property at least since 2001. The business that was operating at this location when Lingles purchased the property was considered grandfathered into compliance with zoning. However, since the Lingles haven't owned the property since before zoning was adopted in 2006, Washington County is requiring the use to be addressed with regard to zoning now that the business and potentially the land use will be changing with the next tenant. The property is currently being used as a construction business with work trucks and trailers parked outside along the property line. Some materials of the trade are found outside, but mostly stored inside. And there's an office where customers, where walk-in customers are seen. And this imagery from the county's public map system is approximately 1 year old. This Google Earth imagery is from March 13th, 2018. Looking back, this Google Earth imagery is from March 2012. And looking further back, this Google Earth imagery is from December 2003. With the cars parked out front and other items stored along the western property line, you can clearly see it was being used as a commercial property at that time. Mr. Lingle, owner of the subject property, requests this property to be rezoned to commercial warehouse. And Washington County recommends approval of the rezoning request contingent that once we have a permanent process in place to rezone properties, this commercial use shall be compliant with the approved requirements. And I'd be happy to take any questions you have at this time. The applicant is here as well and has prepared a short speech.
Can you clear, so the requirements will be established later, or defining what commercial use is will be established later?
Yes, sir, and so, like I said, we recognize we have this need. Another example that you all are familiar with was the Old Wire issue where we did a CUP on the whole property, but then we're going to require a CUP for every suite, 2 suites, 10 buildings. So you could potentially be looking at 21 CUPs on that one 17-acre property. And that's not the way that that planning works. It's not the way zoning works. It's not the way Washington County wants to operate. And so with this rezoning issue that we've been up against, we feel it's time to go ahead and make these changes. And even though it is, it's painful to try to get through some of this, we have really good people with regional planning. We're working diligently in the planning office, and we're taking advice and direction from our chain of command as well. And so yes, rezoning the property to commercial at this time is what we're requesting. But then down the road, whenever we get the new zoning guidelines in place, then this, basically it's to say that the Mr. Lingle's property won't be grandfathered in as commercial without having to adhere to whatever is approved for commercial in the future. Between now and, I hate to say Christmas, implying that we're going to have it done by Christmas, but we are working on it, and we're going to try to get it to the Quorum Court by Christmas, and whatever they decide, that will apply to this property as well.
So you could make a motion to approve this with future acceptance?
I believe so, but our county attorney might be able to speak to that a little bit more clearly.
Would he in fact be grandfathered in once this is, once the zoning system is set?
And that, I'm not terribly sure, sir, to be honest. But that's the reason I'm throwing this caveat in here, is that we can make sure that his rezoning or his commercial use, if it gets approved, will have to adhere to whatever is approved by the Quorum Court whenever we begin making these zoning changes,
That's why I'm asking on the motion to make sure that it's also in the motion as well.
no doubt.
Okay.
I don't see the advantage. I'm not against it, I just don't see why he would want it done now and then.
Because he has a need, and he's already lost tenants, and he's lost a sale on this property, and if he continues down the path that we already have established, then each new tenant is going to have to come here for a CUP on a leased property. And so he doesn't know who's going to want to come in and lease that property, but we do know that it's going to take 5 to 10 weeks for that permitting to be in place before they could even begin their use of that property.
Okay, so his customer will be under a conditional situation as well, based on whether you, what the zoning says at the time.
If we replace, or if we rezone that property tonight and then it gets approved by the Quorum Court at the next meeting, then that property will be able to facilitate commercial use. And then once we get.
But it won't be a
our-
CUP anymore.
Correct.
Yeah,
It'll be a
I
zoning
think that's
change.
what Neil's
And
asking.
there's no conditions on a zoning
Yeah.
change.
Okay.
Thank you. for
Yeah,
the
he won't have to come
clarification.
in, nobody, they won't have to come in
Right.
anymore and
It'll be
ask for a
commercial from
CUP.
then on.
It'll
As
be
long as it-
commercial, yeah,
As long as it follows what a commercial
yeah.
use is.
exactly.
It'll be a use by right.
And that's why
Okay.
I've said commercial warehouse a couple times, because the commercial warehouse zone is the one that most closely fits this one, and that was on advice from City of Fayetteville Planning Director.
Are you going to be allowing this, say, at the next meeting as well, the same type of a decision to have been made on this?
We don't have any requests for that, and I would say that this is an outlier, but I would say that if we don't move along and get this rezoning established with the Quorum Court, then it's going to start backing up on us. And so, yes, I think once the word gets out, then this is going to come up more and more, because we have a serious need for it.
I like the idea, I just didn't know how you're gonna make it work.
This will be a good example for the court to see.
Exactly. And we can look back to this and say, that was the need. And
Yeah, look, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. Currently, the Quorum Court has established only 2 zonings in Washington County, and only the Quorum Court can establish zoning. Zoning is a legislative act, and only the legislative body can. So what you would be doing, in essence, tonight is saying, hey, we understand that there is a need for this, and Quorum Court, for what it's worth, we would recommend that you allow this to move forward and zone this property. Now, only the Quorum Court can define what commercial zoning is, and that's probably going to be an issue that they have. The thing here with Mr. Lingle and his property is, just like Nathan said, this is one of those times where a conditional use permit just doesn't fit effectively. And by forcing someone to go through a conditional use permit process on a situation like this actually hinders the citizen's right with their property. And I guess this is one of those things where we can certainly see that this the CUP process is not beneficial to the applicant and can actually harm them. And so this is something the Quorum Court's going to have to address. I anticipate that we will have some recommendations on exactly what the commercial zoning will be for the Quorum Court, because in order to do so, they may, before they just say, yes, commercial, I believe that if they were to pass it as commercial without any qualifiers, then in order to get it back, if they change those, then this would have to be rezoned again under those zoning requirements. And so that's probably something that we're going to look at and need to come up with, because I'm sure that's something the Quorum Court's going to ask. But ultimately, regardless of what happens here, this has to go to Quorum Court. And then they're the ones that have to make a legislative change to accept something like this. And so, again, that's why when Mr. Lingle came forward and we talked, I didn't really want to wait on this, because I think we've got to get out ahead of this and say, okay, we see a need, and we've got to start addressing this. Even if it doesn't get resolved right now, it needs to get resolved, and we need to get it resolved as quickly as possible.
Will the city be able to, in question wherever the location is, will they be able to negate that zoning?
I don't believe so. I mean, I think if the city were to annex this property in, they annex it subject to what's been zoned. I mean, I don't think that they have to. I don't know that there's a requirement that they do. I think best practice for the city, and the city would probably agree, on anything that we've done, even a conditional use permit, the cities will continue to honor those permits and those people that are doing business, because it would be bad governance for the city. Just like if the county were to come in and say, all of a sudden we're going to change everything from residential, agricultural, and now, we've given you a CUP, but we're going to now take it back and make you go through something else. Governments typically don't function well or tend to survive when they start doing things like that. So this is certainly something that the city would probably look at and say, okay, in thinking about annexing this, what are we looking at, and would we continue to honor this commercial? Which is why, in looking at this, we want to get it as compatible to the city of Fayetteville in our zoning, so that it's not an issue. And so that's why we have reached out to them, because it does sit across the street from the city limits. And as a matter of fact, there's some property across the street, just a little bit further north, that city of Fayetteville or some of the landowners came in and requested an annexation into Fayetteville today that was granted by the judge because they met the requirements. And so now it'll be up to the city to actually annex that. So we know the city's growing out in that area. And so we want to make sure that whatever we do, it looks good to Fayetteville, so that when they do annex in, there's not an issue for the landowner.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, did you say the proponent would like to add something at this point?
Well, I was trying to be loud enough anyway, but I purchased this property 4 years ago with intentions of leasing it. I understand the need for this property. I had been in the construction business most of my life, and it facilitates a building that has offices, warehouse, and a place for a contractor to put his equipment. And so what's been in there basically has been service contractors, electrical contractors, a lawn care contractor, and right now Path Construction utilities contractor. So it has a unique, and it's fenced in, totally fenced in, so it has security, and it has a unique type of building. It's a large building too. And so when I purchased it, before I purchased it, I made a call to the Washington County Planning and the department. I don't remember who I talked to, but they assured me that it's grandfathered in as long as I lease it to someone that's similar type business, that I could do that. Of course, now I'm faced with the changes being made. They want me to do the CPU process. So I've had it advertised for over a month. I've had a couple people approach me, but they're not willing to wait the 5 to 10 weeks to see if they can lease it or not. They want something they can move in pretty quick. And so I've lost those potential tenants, as well as I've had someone wanted to buy it. I didn't really want to sell it, but they kind of wanted it more than I did. And they couldn't wait that period of time. So those potential people have went off to Tawnytown and Springdale, where buildings are readily available that they can lease and get in pretty quick. And so just understand, you know, I've invested my life savings in this property. It's like a big investment. And I'm having a problem leasing it or selling it the way it is. And the only thing I might add to that is I do have experience in owning commercial buildings. I moved here 5 years ago from the Tulsa area. I owned a commercial building in the Tulsa city limits and leased it for 20 years. And the only requirement, of course, they had, it was zone commercial. They had restrictions, you know, I couldn't lease it to anybody. But all you had to do was get an occupancy permit, which took a day or two. And they just wanted to make sure that it was being used as it was zoned for. And then occupants could move in. And so that's the difference. And I understand you're going through zoning changes and stuff, and it's a little complicated. But that's kind of where I'm at it. So hopefully you can get this zone commercial and I can continue to lease it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lingo.
Any questions? Or?
I don't think I have any questions. Okay, I don't see anybody here from the public to address this deal, so close it, and bring it back to committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the Lingo commercial rezoning request with staff comments and future criteria.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and second to approve it as stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, motion passes. So I guess at this point, I entertain a motion to adjourn this portion.
So moved.
Second.
And I think we're done.
There you go.
All in favor, stand